Hey, everybody. Welcome to the We Dream Fearless podcast with your host. I'm your host, Karen Oliver, and I have a special guest with me, Mirika Kay. And she is a forgiveness coach. She's an entrepreneur. She's a leader for women. And I just love connecting with professional women that has the same niche or a similar niche on how we inspire and uncover each other's feelings and emotions and help them get to a better level in their life. So I'm so glad to have Mirika on the podcast, and welcome, Mirika.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And yes to everything you said. I love it.
You're welcome. I'm glad we had such great conversation. So I'm so glad that we could still make it happen. I know that you are a forgiveness coach, and I know that, with your background in inspiring women, can you tell us a little bit about that and how you became a forgiveness coach?
Yes, 100%. So for me, the biggest thing was I realized upon reflection that the main theme of my life was forgiveness. I grew up in a really toxic upbringing, and there was a lot of DV in my home. It was just not a good environment for a child. I'm surprised that like we weren't taken away, to be honest, from my parents, but there was so much chaos in my home. And then my mom moved to Japan and we were raised with my dad. But then there was like a parade of women in our home, and then he remarried, and then his wife was just horrible to my sister and I. And then like school and the teachers were horrible. And then I was bullied so much. And then like just it was just constant chaos in my life. And I would feel so sorry for myself. And I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm a good person and all of these things. I'm doing the best that I can. And when I really sat down with myself a few years ago now, I was like, oh my goodness, the theme of my life has been that I've needed to forgive people. And so I actually started out as a relationship coach. I so there was infidelity in my marriage, and I was like, actually, you know what? I don't really feel qualified now to speak about like a relationship when my relationship obviously is not happening like the way it's meant to. So I was like, I'm gonna just stop and just like take time to reflect on my life. And so I sat in forgiveness for a whole year. I forgave my husband, I forgave everyone that I could think of, even people in primary school, teachers, everyone. And then I forgave myself for
Yeah.
things that I was holding guilt and shame on. And so once I forgave everything that I could think of, I felt like this warm light rush through me and hug every cell. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what peace and freedom and joy is. And if I
Mhm.
can tap into it, everyone can tap into it. And so I was like, I need to start supporting women in forgiveness because this is where it's at.
Yeah, because it's kind of, you know, tough when you start going through the emotions, and then when you start learning, well, wow, this is where I was at, or this is what I'm still dealing with that I haven't dealt with. And before, but I need to forgive myself and forgive, things that happened that, was out of my control, that was just life. And then, that's when purpose and passion rises up and be like, hey, wait a minute, I got through this. And so I need to teach, other women, how to do this and, how to overcome this. Because it sounds like that, you and your, sister, went through that experience. And when did it finally hit that, wait a minute, I haven't dealt with this? When did you realize that, beforehand, that you hadn't really dealt with it?
So for me, it was you don't really know, right? You don't know because it's normal. You're just in survival mode. This is life. Life is shit. All the things
Yeah.
that people say, mind my language, but it's not. And so it hit me really when my husband did what he did. And then I was like, actually, you know what? I'm going to sit down and go through and see who else I need to forgive while I'm doing this process because something had to change in my life and I wasn't aware because they don't teach you this in school. Like no one really speaks about it unless you get a mentor, unless you like go and seek it. It's so after I had kids, like I think I was pregnant with my third, and that's when I was like, you know what, like I have to forgive because I had
Yeah.
forgiven in the past, but it wasn't true forgiveness because I would still feel triggered, I would still feel annoyed by their name, I would still not want to be around them. And so when I sat in forgiveness and was able to master it, I was like, oh my gosh, like this this is what I actually needed this whole time.
Yeah, and you know what? It's just like a light bulb, right? It's just like a big light bulb, like, and like you said, you realize those things when you see those patterns in your life. That's just like with relationships, and you know how you go through a certain period of relationships and you realize, wait a minute, the same events keep playing over and over again. That's not healthy. So I need to, not, continue with this pattern because this behavior is not good. This is the behavior that I've seen before. And then that's when you step out and you realize, well, wait a minute. Instead of being mad and angry, like you said, and upset, it's like forgiving those people that you've, came in encounter with, because everybody teaches you a lesson. You're like, okay, I forgive you for whatever you did, but I'm going to move on, and I'm actually going to be better. Because like you said, if you do not, forgive, things from your past, or, forgive, certain relationships, it's like it's just going to be eating you away. You may continue to keep running into the same stumbling block, right?
Yeah, 100%. And forgiveness is never for the other person. Forgiveness is for you so you can pull your power back, so you can step into your power and be like, you know what? I've given you too much control of my life. I'm
Yes.
going to now take control of it. Like it's no more me thinking about you, losing sleep, not eating, overeating, going to vices, whatever it is. Because when you do not forgive, it's literally a parasite. It's like a parasite in your body. It's like a parasite in your heart. It attacks every cell because so
Right.
much this comes from unforgiveness. And so exactly what you said, it's, when you see all these patterns and behaviors, it's one of the biggest things is forgiveness for your parents or caregivers, right? Because you get to detach from their story because you're not them. And so you get to create your own story, but that happens with forgiveness rather than holding on and being like, but I'm like this because of them. Like my life is like this because of how they were. Well, no, it played a part, but we're grown adults. We can now detach and be like, you know what, I'm gonna take control of my life and I'm gonna move forward.
Exactly, exactly. And that's, it's like, having a mindset, right? Like saying, I'm not going to keep being angry, at this person or at these people, because it's not doing anything. But like you said, it's for you. The forgiveness for you is making you bitter by you holding on to, that anger and everything. And like you said, you have to create your own story. You have to make a choice in your mind saying, hey, I'm purpose for a lot of things. I am, worthy, and I'm better of everything. So I can just let bitterness go, and, just forgive. And because that also, like you said, it's really, really 100% helping you. And you, like you said it earlier, you don't give the power. It's like we're giving the power to the other person to let that other person control our life. So as women that you have worked with, I mean, what are some things that, well, even before start working with other women, you know, with forgiveness, what are some things that you had to, pretty much, you know, seek in your life as far as forgiveness? How did you have the plan to say, hey, I can help these other women just like I helped myself?
So I've been in a lot of programs. I'm certified in a lot of things. I've had lots of mentors, and none of them really touched on forgiveness deeply, right? And so when I did sit in forgiveness and when I was speaking to my friend group, I was like, this is like a common thing that people don't really know how to forgive or what forgiveness actually is. Because the conversations were the same. Like they were talking about people, or it was this like just the same conversations about them not getting along with their parents, or, just
Yeah,
not moving forward. It was like just repeating the same story over and over and over. And I was like, wow, this is really a collective thing because it's so common that people give their power away. And so when I was like, you know what? The reason why I decided to sit in forgiveness for a whole year, even after what my husband did, was I felt like there was like this big black ball on my left shoulder and I could see it in my peripheral vision. And I was like, that's strange. Like I've never had that before. And so I spoke to my coach at the time and I said, this is what's going on. She's like, yeah, just like, well, we can figure it out. I'm like, okay, cool. So I signed with her for 6 months. And after we had worked together, it just became really small and intense. And I was like, okay, it feels really heavy now. Like, this is not, I can't keep doing this. And so when I sat in forgiveness for a whole year and I had done, like, forgiven everyone on my list, forgiven myself. And then when I started to talk to my friends about what I had done and even my mentor, I was like, this is the missing piece. This is the missing ingredient that if everyone learned how to master forgiveness, they would be like the collective would be in love. The collective would feel compassion for other people, would have kindness for other people. The fear would be gone, right? And so even working with my clients, like, doing the processes that I give them, that is the thing that really sets them free and releases them from the chains, because it's an energetic chain that's holding them to the other person or the situation. And so when we do the forgiveness work, like, it's literally the chains are being cut off.
Yes, yes. Whew. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad that you said it because that's powerful in itself. It's like, you can imagine yourself just being changed. Just imagine yourself being physically changed to someone, and it's like, they've been holding on to you for years because you've been letting them take control. And then once get that release, all of that weight is gone and you feel good and you feel better. And so what are some of the outcomes that or what are some of the success stories and the outcomes that you had, from your clients and maybe even some things that you've even learned from additionally from just being their leader, being their mentor and coach in, forgiveness?
Yeah. So the first thing that I always speak about with my clients is you cannot extend to others what you do not give to yourself,
Mm,
right? So
yeah.
because people are like, well, I can forgive them, but it's like, well, have you forgiven yourself? Are you still carrying guilt and shame? They're like, yes. I'm like, well, then no, you cannot forgive yet. And so,
Exactly.
so it's really about forgiving ourselves first and foremost. And so with some of the success stories that I have is like women are no longer angry. They're no longer yelling at their children.
Mhm.
They are their relationship with their partner is no longer at the end. It's now like a renewed relationship where the passion's back and like they feel fun and they just have sex everywhere, like whatever it is, right? And
No
so
more
and
arguing, no
also
more fussing, no more throwing stuff against the
yeah,
wall.
it's no more like silent treatment or sweeping things under the rug. It's okay, let's have a conversation so we can move forward. And there's other ones where I've had clients who had a really really tough upbringing when they were younger, and so and they haven't spoken to their family for 6 or more years, and they start to have a relationship with them again on their terms because we go through boundaries and a whole bunch of other things that come with forgiveness. But it's really like no longer holding on to that anger or the pain, and being able to have compassion for other people. And I want to just preface by saying compassion is not allowing people to get off scot-free. It's I'm gonna see things from your perspective or try because I know you're doing the best. However, what you did was still crappy and you have to be held accountable,
That's right. That's right.
right? Yeah, so it's really like people just have like so much more amazing relationships. People, their marriages or their relationships are no longer at breaking point. It's like, no, this is amazing. Like we get to have an amazing relationship. But again, like all of this stems back to how we view ourselves and how we're treating ourselves and what we are giving to ourselves first.
I love that. So do you serve I know that, a lot of people go through, you know, family trauma and relationships, like yourself, like you say, you've been there, you've been through it and you've overcame it. So do you serve women and men, or just you pretty much cater to women?
So I serve both. Like I usually do men one-on-one coaching, but with women, I have programs for men. I do one-on-one coaching with women. The reason being is because women have this mother wounding and sister wounding with women. And so all my programs, the underlying tone of that is healing the mother and sister wound.
Yeah, and you know what, Mirika, I agree because we as women, we are emotional beings, we're emotional creatures. So I can see you're doing that, you separating the two. And so our most of the forgiveness that come from uh marriages and family relationships? Do you focus on one or the other, or what are some of the ones that you pretty much focus on with your clients?
So I have clients that come that need forgiveness with their parents, with the school teachers, with exes, with their current partner, with their children, with themselves. So it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Whatever forgiveness that's needed, I can help you with.
So that's, well, like you said, that just sums it up. It's pretty much like family, because we have all types of relationships. Like you said, their children, and I'm glad that you said that too, because just speaking of the children aspect of forgiveness, there are some things that we as adults that are holding on to, and we take it out on our children, and then they're wondering why we're so snappy and argument. I know I've been there when I was a young parent, when I was a my daughter, I was 26 when I had my daughter. And so there were things, of course, we grow from season to season, we get mature. And it was just things that I was holding on, and how things played out. And I had to realize, and I shared this on the episode, Mirika, that I had to, ask my daughter for forgiveness, because there was things that she didn't understand. She was wondering why I would be upset, or why I would, pop her and whoop her. And I didn't even realize, even though we do discipline our children, but then there's also too another added frustration and anger to that, because of the way things are going on in our life, and we don't realize that we are overstepping our bands, and we have to sit down and actually just communicate and talk, and be like, okay, wait a minute. Like you said earlier, we have to deal with ourselves, first, and then, we can say, hey, we can talk to our children and so forth, and we can, say, ask for forgiveness, and they can forgive us because we've healed through that process. But I've seen it time and time again where, children have said that, okay, well, my mother or father just was not there. And that's happened to children, whether there's one parent's missing, it's something wrong, because children have peer pressure too, as
Yeah.
well. They go through a lot.
Yeah, 100%. And if we can make it easy for them at home, it's it makes such a difference. However, it's we're also dealing with stuff, right? When my children used to have really big like emotions and tantrums, my nervous system would become so dysregulated, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening?" It's because I didn't feel safe in my body, because when I would cry or when I would have a tantrum when I was younger, I'd get a smack, or I'd get a hiding, or I would be told to be quiet or to shut up. My opinion doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So me having to deal with that in the moment, because every new experience is being filtered from the lens through the lens from the past, right? And
Right,
so
right,
me seeing my children have tantrums, it's like, okay, my brain's like, okay, well, you weren't allowed to have tantrums, so this is a new experience, but this is not
right.
safe, And so it's like a back and forth like tug of war. And so having to even process that as a parent with children, being like, okay, like I just have to calm down, I have to just relax or remove myself from the situation, because it is like, there's always that one person in the family who breaks the generational trauma, who's holding the line for their lineage and their future generations, and it's massive work. It's
You're right.
massive work. And so like having to be in the middle where it's like, okay, well, I don't want to explode at them, but then it's very triggering for me. Like, what do I
Yes,
do? Being able to
yes.
hold that is incredible, but it takes such power and control to do that.
Yeah, it does. And like you said, that, it's a challenge when, like you said, you wasn't able to express yourself when you was younger. And that's something that we have to learn too, that we have to allow them to feel the emotions, and allow them to have temper tantrums, and they can be upset. I mean, one day my daughter just told me, like, hey, this is why I'm so upset. This is why I'm acting out. And she finally told me, and I couldn't say anything but, sorry. And thanks for,
Yeah.
telling me that, because we don't realize that, because I think we think because we are the parent, oh yeah, you're gonna do what I say, but they have a voice in everything too, just like we have a voice, and we had to have, but like you said, some of us didn't have, we couldn't say anything back, or we couldn't be allowed to share those things or whatever. So like it's like when and when you came to grips, okay, this is what I need to implement as discipline my child, that's when it becomes better, because it's like, okay, I didn't have this, but this is the right way to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And, we make mistakes, right? Because again, like we're learning and no one can prepare you for parenthood. No one can prepare you for motherhood. And so
Exactly.
there are times, even like my children, they're 6, 4, and 2. If I've ever done something and they've come to me like, oh, mommy, like you made me upset or I was a bit scared or whatever it is, we'll talk about it and I'll always ask for their forgiveness. I'll be like, I'm so sorry. Like, that wasn't my intention. Mummy's going through a lot of emotions as well. You on the receiving end. That's not your fault. Like, you are
Right.
amazing. You're valued. You're loved. Do you forgive me? And they'll always say yes. And now, if they've done something to me and they see that I'm upset about it, they'll come to me. They're like, I'm sorry, mommy. Do you forgive me? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
I
because
do.
you're mimicking. It's like they're mimicking those things. They're learning and growing from you because that's what my daughter does too. Even up now, she knows, well, I shouldn't have said that. And like you said, as you saying it first, as us as parents and adults saying it first, and we like, okay, we're going through something, and they come back and they say sorry, and they also give encouragement too. They also end up giving you encouragement and lifting you up as well. Yeah.
100%. They do. And, I have so many clients who say, like, my children don't listen. They don't listen. They mimic what we role model to them.
Yeah, yeah. So that I think like that is awesome, America. As far as you being that forgiveness coach, and I love it because that's my first time even really hearing the niche. Even though we always talk about forgiveness and everything, but to have a forgiveness coach and a leader for others, and especially with your story and your background, it's like you are fit, for that task, and that is your purpose. And there's so many, like you said, children, family, so many relationships that us out here in society that really need to understand that is going to take place. We have to forgive ourselves first before we can get on the healing journey, get on the healing process. So I love the fact that you are you know teaching and coaching and mentoring, um, each and every one of them in that aspect. And I know that they're greatly, greatly appreciated, for that. But I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know that you have the small kiddos. I miss my daughter being that small because they're so busy. They're so busy. But I do actually want one more child. I do. My daughter's like, Mom, I just turned 16. I said, I know, but it's never too late. I said it's never too late, okay?
Yeah,
But
100. No, it's never too late.
exactly, exactly. But let the audience know how they can find you, America, or if they would like to work with you, how would they go about doing that?
Yes, thank you so much. So the easiest way is just to add me on Instagram or send me a message on Instagram. So it's Mirika Kay, Mirikay. But yeah, just message me. I'll get back to you. And yeah, if you need any information, like I've got pretty much everything on my page, but message me. Like I love connecting with people. Like even if you have a question, just like message me and I'm good to like support you through.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on, and we will definitely stay in touch. Thank you for sharing with us about forgiveness and how to overcome that, and just how to be more honest with ourselves, and accept the fact that we need to forgive first. It is not for the other person, it is for us. And thank you so much. And if there's one thing you want to leave with the audience, feel free to do so.
I think the thing for me, and this is what I say, is that life is so short to be in survival mode the whole time. And so I never want to be someone of regret. So, when I am given an opportunity, if it aligns with my goals and it's something that makes me uncomfortable, I would jump into it because again, life is so short. And for me, I'm so big on legacy and what I'm leaving behind. And I want my eulogy. This is like people are like, this is so deep. But a eulogy, I want it to be instead of like, she was kind and loving. It's like she was a badass. Like she chased after her dreams. Like, like I really want it to be so different. And so and so just really think about what you want to leave behind and
Yes.
be courageous enough to leap and jump and take the faith. like have faith that everything will work out because it always does.
Yes, I love it. You couldn't have never summed it up any better. Thank you so much, Mirika, for joining us, and thank you everybody for tuning into the We Dream Fearless podcast. And we will be back with another episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.